All right, welcome back. Episode 2 of the Standard Podcast. I have a great guest here in the building with me today, Chris Tate, who actually is my first client to come on board the Standard. A friend of mine here that lives in Georgetown. The way that we met was through our kids' baseball teams, and we actually never really even connected during that season.
Right.
But God had different plans for us.
He did.
And what was it? Probably 3 months after the season, 4 months after the season.
Right.
Chris messaged me just right around Christmas, right around New Year's, and decided to sign up on January 1. So, Chris, welcome.
Thank you. Thank
Pleasure
you for
to have
having
you
me. Yeah. Beautiful studio.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You know, just coming along slowly but surely, but I'm excited to be here in our hometown and be able to just get in and talk, man. You know, provide knowledge. I think, like we've spoken about, there's an overload of information out there, but
Yeah.
getting guys in here like myself, yourself, that can speak about our experience, our stories, I think is going to resonate with a lot of people. So
Amazing.
I want to jump in and start off with probably a very important question to me, which was, what made you stop scrolling when you're on social media that day and reach out to me? What was it that I said? What was in the video? You know, sort of where was your mind at that day?
Yeah, definitely. So as you said, we knew each other a little bit through baseball. Like I had seen you, we had maybe said a couple words, hi, bye, whatever. And so I think naturally the algorithm pushed us together a little bit. And I started seeing some of your posts. I didn't follow right away though, admittedly. So I apologize about that.
All good.
But I kept seeing them. And at that point in my life, I was really, I was looking to make a change essentially. And I had always told myself, on my next birthday, on the 40th birthday, New Year's, I'm going to make the change. I'm going to stop drinking. I'm going to stop, doing all these behaviors that I wanted to. And I think, God will send you signals, right? And I was never really a religious person up until, about 2 years ago. And there was 3 signs essentially that he sent me to where it was like, okay, you have to make a change now. And the first sign was that, I was sitting there with my family. We were playing charades on a weekend night. And my son basically got one of the charade cards and he said, hey, it said you have to act out your dad. And so he went over to the couch and he laid there and took my cell phone and pretended that he was hungover and just sitting on the couch scrolling and was like, ugh. And that shame, embarrassment, I couldn't really live with that. And it's still in my mind today, even
Sure.
months later.
Sure.
And then usually on weekends, right, my wife and I, we would go out and drink. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that was our time to unwind from the week, and we were taking the kids with us. So I was drinking on all 3 of those days. And for whatever reason, one Sunday, I was driving back from something we were doing, and I got pulled over. And luckily, that day was the one Sunday in probably 10 years that I hadn't been drinking. And thank God. And then the third one is I was scrolling, and I saw your ad, and you were talking. Basically, it felt like to me. And at that point, I said, you know what? This is the move. I've just got to reach out and say, hey, I like what you're doing. I'm interested more in hearing about your program.
Sure.
And that was essentially it.
Yeah, man, I remember that day verbatimly because when you had called me, I told you, I said, listen, I swear, I just started this program. I'm not going to beat around the bush and tell you I got 100 clients. But I remember when you called me and you asked me very specific questions. And just based off your questions that you had asked me, I could tell that you took the time to watch my video. And that's one thing I want a lot of viewers to take in is, the content that I'm putting out, it's not meant to fly by you really quick. It's meant to, again, provide knowledge based on my experiences. And a lot of times I focus solely on myself. I say, this is how I've gotten through it. This is what I've been through. And to me, I feel like that resonates with the audience more. Again, I'm not trying to speak quickly. Trying to speak with them, not at them. So I'm glad that video actually, it resonated with you. Now take me back to explain what was your alcohol consumption like? I know you smoke some pot as well.
Definitely.
I want the viewers that are watching this to realize that, your average alcoholic doesn't drink every single day.
Right.
Or I don't want to use the word average. My dad said the other day, you do not have to drink every single day to be an alcoholic. So explain to me sort of the pattern that you were in for yourself as a husband, as a wife, and what the alcohol and the pot started to do for you negatively.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we talk about this all the time in our sessions is that on paper, I had it all, right? I was making really good money, over 6 figures, had nice cars, nice house, family, right? Everything was good on the outside, but I hated my job. I was miserable. And that Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I was probably doing 10 to 20 drinks, beers, shots, mixed drinks, whatever it was, each day. So that was essentially the consumption. And then because of that, I had gained weight, I was eating poorly, and I couldn't sleep, right? My blood pressure at that point, I think, was like 160 over 100, like almost dangerous territory. And it was really like a scary moment. But the only way I could find a way to go to sleep, and I had tried every medication out there, was to smoke pot. And so pot became an every single night thing. And if you've ever smoked pot, even if it's not during the day, like I wasn't a wake and bake type of person. It was only to go to sleep. I didn't even like doing it, but I had to do it to go to sleep. And that carries with you. It doesn't get out of your system just because you go to bed. Like you wake up in a fog. And so your performance the next day, the way you think, the way you act, the way you feel is all clouded.
Similar to a hangover.
Very similar.
Very similar.
Absolutely.
Now you said something important about, or you said something pretty interesting about the amount of drinks that you would drink on a weekend.
Yeah.
And this took me time to sort of go back and reflect as to why I was drinking. But at this point in your journey, is there something that you can pinpoint that was giving you the urge to drink 10 or 20 drinks? Was it something that you were trying to hide, something that you didn't like to confront? What was it besides having fun?
Yeah, I think it started off in college as having fun, right? And that for me was, okay, I'm going to try to keep replicating this even after my college years. And that lasted for 20 years. I tried to keep replicating that. And me and my wife, we like to go out and have a good time. And so it just became chasing that. But I think like subconsciously, and even now going through the program, I realized that it was escapism, right? I was trying to live during the week, and I really hated the position I was in. I hated what I was doing. The only way to really forget that was to just get hammered on the weekends, spend a bunch of money, do stupid things.
Sort of numb it out.
Exactly.
Yeah, numb it out. And that's, for me with the progression of my drinking, again, it starts off as fun, starts off as relaxing, starts off as Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But for me, I was trying to hide. I was trying to escape. And that's when the vodka came first thing in the morning, because I couldn't even bear it. I mean, as crazy as it sounds looking back on it, I couldn't even bear the day. I couldn't even wake up and face the day, mainly because I couldn't face what was inside here. My exterior all looked great. I had a 6-month-old son at the time. I was married, had a brand new home, nice cars. But isn't it funny how on the outside looking in, and I've realized this moving here to Texas, being around new people, making friends as an adult, what you see a lot of the times is not actually the truth.
Very much so.
You know what I mean? I feel like people are going through this life right now, doing their best to paint this beautiful picture. And a big part of why I'm bringing this podcast studio here is, and speaking is, I need men and women and families to understand that this illusion of everything is okay, it's going to hurt you. It's going to hinder you in the long run. Absolutely. There's only so many times you can cover up and cover up and cover up. And I believe a big part of being a man and obviously setting a new standard in your life is saying, fuck it. I don't have the answers. I don't like this path that I'm going down. I don't like waking up hungover. I'm sick and tired of feeling sick and tired. Until two people in a marriage or in a relationship can come together and admit that to each other, I think there's always going to be a tug and a pull between husband and wife. The husband's going to try to put on his armor and look like the man, the boss, in power at all times. But, from what I'm finding from the message I'm getting, there's a lot of broken men out there right now.
Absolutely.
Again, from the exterior, it looks like they have it all. Similar to that picture that I put up of me on that jet that day. I didn't put that picture up on social media. I did that. We flew a private jet only because they were making us wear masks during COVID. I just had it in my mind that nobody's going to tell me what to do. But if you look at that picture, I'm sitting on a private jet, got a nice gold watch on, nice clothes. I've got my notepad in my hand like this and a pen. I'm writing out my goals. But what people don't see is I had my 3 sons on that jet. I had my wife on the jet. I even had 2 dogs on there. I was ignoring them because I was so consumed with who I was and the image that I needed to keep up with, honestly, with what everybody thought what success looked like. You see a lot of these guys online right now where they post the jets and all this stuff that they're doing. But again, is that for them or is that for everybody else?
Right.
And a big part of me, understanding who I am, stepping into this new identity, is realizing that at the end of the day, I can only make myself happy. I can't focus on the exterior, but the more I focus on my interior, the better my exterior comes. And it sounds like the same with you over the last what, 2 months now that we've been working together.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it's one of those things where you get wrapped up in these, I call them like the 2 mile circle of your house, right? You work in a certain industry and everybody's driving the nice car, they've got the nice houses, and then you get on LinkedIn and everyone's talking about all their promotions, and you're chasing this illusion of what success looks like. And deep down, I believe it creates unhappiness, right?
Absolutely.
And so I think life is very short, right? Like at 38, you're halfway done with life. And that's almost where I'm at.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah. That's what they say. But essentially, you got to kind of look at that and go, okay, like, do I want to live the next half of my life the way that I've been living it before? Am I happy? And does that mean sacrificing a few $1,000s to do so? Maybe sometimes it does. Or just getting ultra disciplines like this program is all about.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you on that. My next question for you is, you started January 1st.
Yeah.
Okay. What are the biggest takeaways and tools that have changed how you show up today as husband, for yourself, husband, father, coach, whatever, everything that you do in your life? What tools and what takeaways have you gotten from me that have helped you today?
Yeah, I think the two biggest things for me were the structure and accountability early on, right? Like I wanted to stay accountable to you, but also show myself that I could keep doing it. And I think like halfway through that first month though, something kind of changed. Is like, I didn't really want to stay accountable to you so much. It was more so I want to stay accountable to myself. And I think once you start stacking wins, right? Like I was halfway through the first month, it's like, I've been 14 days sober so far. I've worked out every single day for 14 days. I've ate clean every single day. So you start going, okay, instead of the scarcity mindset of, I want to keep it going as long as I can to stay accountable to you, it is like, how many wins can I stack up here in a row? How many months can I go like this? And you start feeling better and better and more clear-headed. And it's like, whoa, this is what life is actually like. Like after you quit all that, I was under a wet blanket for 20 years and I never even realized it until I joined the program. So it's crazy.
It's music to my ears, man. Again, I got into this with the sole purpose of helping other people, and being able to have you come on board January 1, today being February 26, in just a short amount of time. I'm proud of the man that you're becoming and that you're going to become. I also want to talk about, I feel like in the beginning of us talking and getting to know each other, you had a certain identity,
right,
versus who you are today. Can you explain what that identity shift has been in just 2 months?
Yeah, I was definitely struggling with my identity working this corporate job, right? And for so long, I think like at the end of the day, like a lot of us, we don't like the corporate job space, essentially. There's a lot of people out there that don't. They don't like what they're doing, and their body will essentially send you messages, stress signals, whatever it might be. I felt like I was playing this role or this character for the last 20 years in these roles because I was chasing the corporate ladder. I was chasing the Joneses. And through working with you, I've left that job and I've pursued what inherently to me feels like what my passion is. And through doing that, I've been able to be more present with my kids, spend the time on the things that matter to me. And I may not be making every single dollar that I was making in corporate, but I'm still earning a living, still getting by and figuring it out. And the changes, before I was only able to see one step ahead on the chessboard. And now it's like, whoa, I can see the entire chessboard and like 10 moves ahead. So that's kind of the biggest changes that I've seen so far in terms of identity shift. I don't have to be that person that I was to earn a living and be a father and a husband.
And be okay with it.
And be okay with that.
Now, you mentioned something about, I'm drawing a blank again here, not making as much money as you were in corporate right now.
Yeah.
I feel like you've done a great job of understanding where you're at in your life, understanding that everything is a process. Where before, very similar to me, everything was, I need to make the money now. I'm going to get that deal submitted. I'm going to make this amount of money. Now it feels like you're trusting the process a lot more. And that's one thing I need the viewers to understand is anything you do in life, you have to start at day one. Any Instagram followers you want to get, you start at 1. Comments, you start at 1. So trusting the process of life, getting out of the rat hole of the constant cycle of doing more, chasing more, being more, I believe is a vital part of stepping into a new identity and being a man.
Right.
You agree?
Definitely. Yeah, I think I've seen it the most, in joining the program, right? Is I was always used to that mindset, like, and we talk about this on our calls, is I was expecting from day one when I left my job and I started pursuing my passion was that I wanted to be a rocket ship. I want 10,000 followers on my new account. I want to start cycling them into this funnel where they're going to purchase everything. And you sat me down and you're like, dude, success is always a slow train. Yep. And I had to really understand that. And I stayed consistent every single day, posted every single day, built out my funnels, kept on my diet. Like it's patterns, right? Like you have to stay consistent. And if that happens, you'll see growth. And now 2 months later, after building this account, it's grown tremendously. People are buying things.
Tremendously. It's grown leaps and bounds.
Yeah. Sure.
Chris needs to give himself a little more credit.
Right.
I could say this for anybody watching. Chris is the only guy since I've met him in 2 months that has started, 10 different online businesses, has succeeded getting sales in all of them, has a massive amount of people following him and views on all his videos. And again, it's a testament to who you are. It's a testament to your voice. It's a testament to how you look, how you carry yourself. And I think it's a testament to this new identity that you've stepped in. Again, like you said earlier, the way that I explain success is it should be like this, where if I go back to my heydays of me being on Adderall, success looked like this to me at all times of the day, from the minute that I woke up to the minute I went to bed. But what I realize is success like this and not taking care of your mind, your body, your relationships, that success is only going to go down like this very, very quickly.
Right.
So it's easy to try to point the trajectory straight up. But if you're not building the foundation below it for it to be able to maintain that growth,
right,
it's going to come crashing back down. And I feel like it eliminates a stressor in our mind as men that, again, things take time. And I feel like when I slowed down in my life, I am now allowing God, the universe, whatever you believe in, to work with me,
right,
as opposed to me coming in every day and saying, I need to do these 10 things. I need to do this. I do have a structure to what I do, but I make time during the day. Sometimes it's in complete silence to listen, to take the signs and to act on those signs. So I believe that's a very big part of stepping into this new identity as a man. And I commend you for doing it.
Appreciate it.
What would you say, and this is a big one because I've been getting a lot of hits, a lot of people interested in hearing more, but I do sense a bit of hesitancy from a lot of men out there. So this question is directly at men or women, but what would you say to the person who knows that they need to change, but is still sitting on the sidelines right now?
Yeah. I would say the biggest thing is, I heard a quote one time and that really kind of sparked me doing this was, if you want to change some things in your life, you need to change some things in your life. And someday never comes, right? I was always waiting for the next birthday, the next event. Oh, we're going on vacation to Cabo in 2 weeks. I want to make sure I'm able to drink there. You're always going to have something.
Yep.
It's all about starting today, right? And you start today and you stack on tomorrow and tomorrow. And it's funny, I didn't know what life looked like outside of drinking, right? Like it was my identity. It was, on the weekends, this is what we do. This is how we have fun. And it wasn't until I stopped that I was able to see kind of the open road. It's like, okay, there's so many other things to do. There's so many other things to explore. I can work on a weekend. I can do things with my kids, So I would say if you're sitting around and you're kind of waiting for someday to come,
a sign or something.
It's not. It's not. Just pick up the phone, call Troy, start the program, and you're going to be happy you did. You're going to look back and, for me, it was 60 days and go, holy crap.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Now, when you and I first started talking, it didn't seem like alcohol was a problem. And I think we've already talked about this, but I believe it's true that most people, when they finally step away from the alcohol or the substance, do they finally realize it was a problem?
Right.
So what are some things that are active in your life or things that you're doing right now, maybe relationships that are getting better that you didn't realize would get that much better until you drop the alcohol?
There's so many things. I would say first and foremost, like as far as my lifespan goes, that was like one major one, right? Like my blood pressure was like 160 over 100, 110. Like it was dangerously high because I was drinking so often. Since I've cut that out, I've started eating correctly, going to the gym. It's normal, 120 over 80. I took it the other morning, right? And so that's first and foremost, like extending my lifespan is the first and foremost thing. But just the relationship with like my wife, right? Like she sees the changes I'm making, right? She sees the direction I'm going. And that's even sparked things in her to start pursuing her own path, right? She started basically kind of like the pseudo standard program where she's kind of following what
she's killing it,
what I'm doing, right? In terms of eating and everything. And she's crushing it with her business now.
Yep.
And then, our kids, they've even talked and said like, are you guys going to drink this weekend? They've asked a couple times, and it's like, no, we don't do that anymore. That's not who we are. And they're
Good.
like, and they said, good. So there's just so many changes. I'm able to be there, not hungover, or I'm not going to miss practice or a game because I was slumped over on the couch or in bed. So yeah.
So you gain back a lot more time. You gain back a lot more control,
Right.
in what you're doing. Now, you said something that is very special to me because I had an intuition in me based off of my own experience and my journey that the day that I decided to raise my standard, level up my life, do certain things that were going to better myself, it is an absolute trickle effect on your wife and your kids.
Right.
So explain to me how you going through this journey of discovering yourself, you changing your identity, how has this benefited your wife?
Absolutely. So on the day that I decided to do the program, I went up to her and I said, hey, I think I'm going to change my life around. I think I'm going to start eating healthy. And I think I'm going to stop drinking. And, we both were heavy drinkers at the time. And she looked at me and she goes, good, I'll do it too.
Hell yeah.
And, since then, like we've been like locked in, right? Like eating healthy on a diet. She's lost a ton of weight. Like you've seen her videos, like ripped, has abs. Her business has transformed. The video content that she's putting out is gaining her clients. They're coming to her asking questions. How are you doing it? And so like there is a trickle effect, right? Like when you start changing your life and making moves, people see that and they will either kind of look on the sidelines and go, you know what? Like, oh crap, like they're making moves, or they're going to be like, hell yeah, I want some of that. I want to get on that too.
I'm in.
So, and even with the kids, right? Like Jackson was always someone that was, he played video games and stuff like that. And I would always let him play video games because I was hungover and I didn't want to just deal with having to entertain the kids.
Sure.
And now it's like, all right, well, I'm ready to do something. Let's go play basketball. Let's go play football. And he's playing less of that. And just the other day, he's like, can I go play football this next season? Right. And so like, stuff is starting to trickle for our family. Less TV time, less video games, more outside, more together.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I also want to touch on this. When Chris and I first got on the phone, we talked. It's an investment to do something or change something in your life, to get on a program. And we talked about what the investment was. And I remember you saying, hey, I'm going to have to talk to my wife about this.
Yeah.
And I said, great, because everything that I've done in my life in the last probably 9 years, I've ran it by my wife, the good and the bad. But most importantly, I think it is so crucial to sit down with your wife and almost, it's probably our first time being very vulnerable and saying to our wives, hey, listen, there are some things in my life I want to change. 90% of probably what you're going to say, your wife already knows, but hasn't said anything.
Right.
But getting your wife's buy-in on something like this is massive.
For sure.
Having that support. I believe, when I changed myself, my identity, it almost forced my wife to do the same.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like there were certain things, there were certain ways that her and I were acting, interacting, parenting, that the minute I wrote out a concrete plan and I said to my wife, I'm sticking to this. It wasn't like she looked at every one of my notes, but through my words and through my actions, we started meshing much better.
Right.
And with you and Kara, you talked about accountability earlier. The accountability factor with your wife is massive as well. Because you guys are both running on that same trajectory right now. And I feel like if one person decides to drink, it's going to throw off the other person.
Sure.
And vice versa. So, not only, again, is it a profound thing to turn yourself around, but to have that impact your wife and kids.
It's huge. It's huge. Yeah. For us, it was like, when I went to her and I told her I was thinking about changing my life and started the program, she was like, okay, good. And then I told her how much it cost, and she was like, what do we need to do? Like, what do we need to move around to make this work? She's like, I'm all for you jumping on it, right? Because she had seen all the paths that I've taken before, right? I've joined other programs with like these big mentors or whatever that didn't even know my name, right? And spent all the money. And she's like, look, I know who this guy is. He lives in our community. He's a real guy. And to your testament, like you've called me every single day. You've texted me. You've helped me stay accountable to everything. And we were just kind of on board. We were ready for that change. And I think like, you have to do it, right? Like it's one of those things.
I was on the phone with a guy the other day and I said, listen, how much would it cost you if you didn't make a change?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like how much would it, I understand how much it costs right now or what you think to make a change, to sign up with the program, but how much would it cost you, not just financially, but everything else if you don't make that change? Yeah. Because for me, the longer I waited to make a change, the taller that mountain got.
Yeah. I was looking to leave my job, right? Like, that I tell you all the time, and I have left since then. But one of the things that I told myself is like, I don't get to leave my job and then still carry all these stupid same habits that I have, thinking that I'm going to somehow, be an entrepreneur or get into the space where I want to get to with a clouded mind, drinking all the time, angry at everything. And so I knew that if I was going to leave my job and really pursue my passion, I needed to get everything else in my life in order. And I knew that I hadn't been accountable to myself for the last 20 years. So that's why I turned to you. And it started off being accountable to you, and I still am. But now it's like, okay, now things have changed in my mind. I'm like, I want to keep stacking wins. I want to keep being accountable to myself and showing myself that it works.
Now you're accountable to the man you're looking at in the mirror.
Exactly.
Which is a great, great feeling.
Yeah.
I want to touch on, so there's a lot of men out there, calling them entrepreneurs, leaving corporate America, what have you, that believe that the minute that they quit their job, they need to pick something up like that.
Oh, yeah.
Now, that may be for everybody. But my big thing is if you have the ability, if you have 6 months or a year worth of savings, and there's some things going on in your life outside of work that you need to focus on, it is okay to pump the brakes. Mm-hmm. It is okay to give yourself a week or a month off. Yeah. One of my suggestions to Chris, what was this, 2 weeks ago, was, Chris, you need to disconnect from your cell phone, from the outside noise, from the news, from the media. You need to disconnect to connect with yourself.
Right.
And Chris decided to go out to Argentina for a week.
Right.
And I think that was probably at this point in your journey one of the best things you could have done.
Yeah.
And I want you to elaborate a little bit more on that week and what it allowed you to do, the space it freed up in your mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I first left my corporate job, essentially I was freaking out, right? I wanted to replace my income right away. I did stuff like DoorDash, which I never thought I would do. I ran around with my big camera and I was trying to shoot content or social media for businesses. I was trying everything to like replace my income because I was still stuck in that fight or flight mode from corporate. And after talking to you, you were like, dude, you need to take a week, sit back, recalibrate, open up the board, right? See where the next path kind of leads you. And we used miles and points that I had saved from all the years at corporate. So it benefited me in some way, and flew out there, just me and my wife. My mom watched the kids, and we just had an amazing time walking around, not drinking, right? Because traditionally on vacations, we were just pounding drinks every single night, but it was sober. We woke up, we lived our life like a routine. We went to the gym, we filmed content, we brainstormed, we were working on our computers, went out to dinner at night, talked about the next moves and how we were feeling different. And so when I came back, I felt back energized and felt like, okay, like now the open road is here. Like I'm able to see which way to go from here. So it was instrumental to take that step back, to take 2 steps forward.
Yeah. And I think, look, if you talked about lifespan earlier, if you look at your entire lifespan and you say, okay, I'm going to take a month off.
Right. In
the whole span of your life, that's nothing.
Yeah.
It goes by like that. So I want you to also share the story with me about the guy that said, hey, I'm in AA for X amount of years, and they decided to start drinking when you're in Argentina.
Yeah. So, we were doing some group things at night while we were there, right? So they have like these, Trivago, Airbnb type of meetings where you can go and you can experience dinner with other people that are, from other countries and things like that. And I was the only person at dinner that was not drinking, and everyone was like, oh, why? And some guy that was sitting next to us actually looked at me and he goes, yeah, like I've been in AA for, I forget how long it had been, but years. And he had a drink in his hand. I was like, well, what are you doing? He's like, you're only on vacation once. And I was like, whoa, bro. I was like, I don't think you're gonna regret this, actually. Yeah. And he's like, whatever. And that almost reaffirmed that I knew I was on the right path.
Sure. And I think being on the right path, and we went over this in the very beginning, but making sure that you are writing out what your why is.
Yeah.
If your why is this big and a drink is put in front of you, well, if that doesn't match your why and your intentions, you're not going to look past, you're going to look right past that drink. Now, if your why is not concrete, solid, this is what I want, yeah, that drink is going to look pretty enticing when it gets in front of you.
Absolutely.
So it's unfortunate about that guy, but I guess to each their own.
To each their own. Yeah. Like I said, like I was so locked in that like that, and that mindset, by the way, like if I had decided to quit for a week back before this program, that type of, demeanor from him would have been like, oh yeah, we are on just vacation once. And I would have just picked that up.
It's like the dry January thing.
Yeah.
I did a video on this the other day. I think for me, dry January, of course, it's a good break for somebody's body. But think about it from a fatherly standpoint.
Yeah.
Hey, son, hey, daughter, even to your wife. I'm going to remove this substance out of my body for a month. I'm going to look better. I'm going to feel better. I'm going to perform better. I'm going to make more money. But come February 1st, I'm right back on that train.
Absolutely.
That's a mind fuck to kids. You know, the kids sitting back saying, oh, my dad's not on his phone anymore, hungover. All of January goes by. They're getting used to this new person, this new identity. I'm curious what it is that makes guys go, all right, February 1.
Right.
I believe, again, it's the accountability and the brotherhood factor of it.
Totally.
You know, within my program, the standard, yes, I am working one-on-one with clients, but building a community of guys, brothers, having that accountability to the point where, you know, we may be in a group message one day with 100 different people that are on the standard. You're in Argentina. You have an urge to drink. You shoot out a text message. Hey, guys, I'm feeling this way. Whether it's myself or somebody within that group responds back with a little nugget for you to change your mind. That's the accountability factor in the brotherhood that I believe everybody needs.
Absolutely.
Because there aren't too many outlets out there for men to be vulnerable, for men to feel like when I'm talking with other men, we're right here, nobody's judging me. And that's a big part of the standard and the program that I'm running, again, is for men to understand, first of all, that this is a safe place to be vulnerable. This is a space where there's probably nothing somebody can tell me that I haven't either done myself or heard within the last 39 years of living. You know, my father being in AA for the last 26 years. So,
Sure.
You know, again, it's a vulnerability, and it's the willingness and the ability to open up.
Right.
We must open up. We must pause. We must take a step back. We must allow God. I'm going to give you a good analogy. I don't know if I've given you this before, but before I stopped drinking, I had this analogy in my mind that God was holding onto my shoulders, saying, hey, son, I know what you want. I know what you're capable of. But if I give you all this now and I allow you to do all this now, you're going to kill yourself. It's not going to end good. I kid you not, Chris. From the first day of me not drinking, even to today, God's hands are slowly lifting off of my shoulders because I am proving to him that he can trust me.
Right.
With different doors that are going to open. Maybe some doors are going to close. Some instances are going to come. So it's that trust that you have to instill in yourself and with God for these other opportunities to come your way.
Right. I totally agree. You know, and part of that, like just being open and honest, right, is, you know, I think society teaches us that you're a weak man if you kind of share your feelings or you open up about, you know, wanting to stop, or that you're going to give up this life that society deems is successful to pursue something else. And I'll tell you, it wasn't until I came to you and I just opened up to you and I told you everything straight up and I started speaking my truth to you online. I've noticed more doors that I would have taken before that would have led me down a bad path close, and way more doors open that I'm like, okay, hell yes, let's go to this one. So yeah, like it's crazy what happens when you start being stop being so reserved and start like speaking your truth and being true to yourself.
When you stop resisting, things start coming up.
Absolutely.
You know, when you completely, you know, this is a big part also, is surrendering. Surrendering, whether it's to yourself, to God, but surrendering and saying and having the humility to say, you know what, I need to change. Yeah. This path that I'm going down is not too good. And the crazy part is I think it's 1 in every 3 households has an addiction.
Yeah, I believe it.
So we're talking to everybody. Could be your neighbor to the left, could be your neighbor to the right. And for me, the more that I share my story, bring people like you on, the more it's going to resonate and be able to allow others to connect with us as well. So prior to coming onto the standard, walk me through and help me understand where your mindset was, where you were physically. Were there certain things that had happened in your life leading up to that point where you just finally said, wow, that video I just watched is resonating with me. I need to make a change.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I had been basically crying for help for years. I was pretty depressed. I was unhappy with my work. I was angry inside at just about everything. And I was starting to notice it lash out. And I was starting to see signs that a change needed to be made. And I always said, I'm going to start on my birthday. I'm going to start on the next, you know, sober October or whatever it was going to be. And I never did it. I never made the change. I even joined a couple programs prior to that where the mentor didn't even know my name, right? And I just spent a whole bunch of money and wasted it. And, you know, I was slipping down a slope. Like the biggest thing for me is that on the outside, you could look at our life and people were asking me, oh, what do you do? Like you seem successful, but inside I was looking at myself in the mirror and not happy with who I was. And I was starting to see signs from my wife, from my kids, that they were not happy with who I was becoming either. And I wanted to make a change. And like I said, this has been happening for years. And finally, I was like, enough is enough. I saw two things happen. My son imitated me through a game of charades and imitated a guy that was passed out on the couch, scrolling through his phone, hungover. And then I got pulled over. And luckily on that day, I had not been drinking. But I was like, okay, this is crazy. Two things in a row. And then all of a sudden, I was sitting there one night and I saw your video. And it was speaking to exactly the person that I was then and that I needed to change. And so I just sent the DM, I hit message, got into your inbox, and you hit me up, I think like within a few minutes, and we set up a call, and here I am 60 days later.
Well, again, I appreciate you sharing all this. I know sometimes it's not easy, but again, if you're watching these videos right now, or this one video in particular, I want you to hear this, not only from myself, but from somebody like Chris, who saw the writing on the wall, saw my content, resonated with my content, and decided to take action on January 1st. And in just 60 days, I wouldn't say change your life 100%, but man, you have come leaps and bounds. And my big motto is 1% better every single day. And I can say this very confidently that since Chris has come on board, we've had a Zoom call every single week, we've met in person, he's gotten 1% better every single day. And again, if you're watching this, do not wait. Do not wait for the DUI. Do not wait for the blowout with your wife. Do not wait for your kid to imitate you doing something that you don't like. Reach out to me. I'm here. We're here. Set up a free 15-minute call with me. I'm going to go over, I'm going to understand exactly where you're at in your life, and then I'm going to put together a program that is tailor fitted for you to get you through the I guess the tough times in your life right now, the down times. Again, whether it's sobriety, diet, relationships, financial, jobs, it doesn't matter. It all falls within the same scope of life, of being a man. So again, Chris, I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you
very much. So
appreciate it.
And if you're tuning into this and you like my content that I'm putting out, please take the time to subscribe, to like, to comment on anything that you see. Also, feel free to put in any questions or comment on any topics that you want me or a guest to speak more about. Again, this is a community. We're all here for everybody. And the only way that this channel is going to gain traction is to follow, like, and comment. Thank you.